Katrina, you empower entrepreneurs and leaders to master their unique field of excellence, to become experts. But I feel that before they can step into that role and reach levels of mastery, they have to overcome one of the biggest challenges in life, which is conquering their mind. Your TEDx talk redefines how we view self doubt, not as a weakness, but as a wise guide and a necessary companion on our journey. Before we explore that more deeply, I would love to ask you, what was this earliest moment in your life when self doubt first revealed itself not as an enemy, but as an unexpected teacher? And what do you awaken in you about who you were becoming?
Well, when I first left the corporate world, I think that's when I realised that I'd been scammed essentially at a very low point in my life. I had just had a miscarriage, in fact, and so I was probably very, well, I don't want to say weak. I was probably grieving and I was just not myself. And so I was open to this scammer scamming me. And so I went, gave him all the money and realized he had absolutely nothing. And so when I was talking to my lawyer, my solicitor, whatever you call them there in America, we call them solicitors or barristers here in Australia, he said to me, look, I can see all your evidence. I can see it all there. You've prepared all your evidence. You probably will win. He said, but you're going to throw more money after this just to get it through the courts. And so I ask you, is there any chance that you've learned a $30,000 lesson? And within that moment, I just knew that I actually had. And the lesson was that I had it all inside of me. Everything I needed already was inside of me. And that to me was a massive turning point where I started to really not look for external validation anymore. And I started to really just look within and become my own guru and my own coach and somebody that could unpack things themselves internally. Now, that's not for everybody because some people are structured that they need external validation and they need to talk outside of themselves. But I'm very much more an internal, reflective type learner. And I really learnt that about myself and it just changed everything.
That external validation, I've been learning lately through my own experience that it's almost like an illusion. You do things to get the validation from others, thinking that that's how you're going to love yourself more or that's how you're going to be at peace within yourself. And when you get it, you realize, oh, I didn't feel anything. And then you search for more and more and seek more, more, more. And unless you make the unconscious conscious and realize, no, I don't. Obviously, I'm not feeling anything because it doesn't have to come from them. It has to come from me. Unless you snap out of it, it's going to be very hard to realize. And in your case, it took like 30 grand to just become aware of that, which is a lot of money. It is a lot of money, and just realizing, okay, this is what happened to me. This doesn't have to define me. What can I do with it? What lesson was this life event trying to teach me? Which I think that we can reframe a lot. Almost any obstacle, any adversity, any setback we have, we can reframe it into that. Instead of acting as you could have easily acted as a victim, he took advantage of me, he screwed me over, yada yada yada. It's like, okay, what can I actually learn from this? And once I make that mistake, I'm going to make sure that I don't make it again. But my question is now, how to distinguish self-doubt rooted in intuition versus the kind that stems from fear or old conditioning?
So my intuition actually did speak to me originally when I first met the guy. And straight away, I had a visceral reaction to him. And my intuition was saying, absolutely not, just don't go any further. But there was some manipulation in the language that he used. And I didn't know it then, but I can look back now and see that there was a certain type of technique being used in that meeting to draw me in. But anywho, I didn't listen to my intuition stupidly. And I'm a very, very intuitive person. And now I trust that a lot more. And I listen to that a lot more because the intuition is pretty good. I think, you know, your intuition's there for a reason. It's like a superpower. But also, too, there's conditioning. As you say, conditioning, there's a part of you that is conditioned to people please and not be rude and not be that honest in the situation. Imagine if we all said out loud exactly what we were actually thinking. It would be a very, very strange world indeed. And so I, like most people, have been bred to be a people pleaser. And so there's that aspect operating in most people. In one of your podcasts, the guy, you know, after dating her for the evening, said split the bill, and he was trying to people please, you know, to her what it is that she wanted, what he thought she wanted, and in fact, it wasn't what she wanted. She wanted him to pay for the bill, and that's a people pleasing thing where he was trying to do the right thing instead of saying to her, "Look, based on what you said, I just assumed that that's what you wanted." So in everything we're doing, we're constantly people pleasing and we're not really doing what it is that we want to do. And my belief is that we should be checking in with ourselves and doing what's right for us. And that you know, a lot of the time we're not. Most of the time we're just doing what other people want, whether that's our parents, whether that's our partner, whether that's people at work. We're constantly seeking validation externally through people pleasing. And in fact, we're not pleasing anybody. We're just not even pleasing ourselves. And so pretty much everybody going through life is pretty miserable most of the time. And I find that really sad, really, really sad, when we should just be knowing ourselves better and doing what's right for us, because we've got this one chance to be this thing, this personality. And you know, you want to really live life on your own stage, and what's happening on your stage, you're the lead actor in your play, you're on stage, and all these people come on to your stage to play with you and for you, to give you something to play with. And they're there to teach us these lessons and for us to be able to look in the mirror at these things. And it's just amazing how life works. And when you see life as a stage and you as the main actor, these things are not things that happen to us. They are things that happen for us and for our own development and personal development. And yeah, this particular example that's mine was a fantastic learning tool. And I thank the guy, you know, I really thank the guy for coming onto my stage, playing the bad guy so that I can learn that lesson. That's what it was all about. It was amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and but I love what you mentioning people pleasing is hard because we were conditioned like that since we're kids. It was our way to survive. We needed our parents. We needed our caregivers in order to make it. But that story never changed, and then it became part of our identity. That and I've been suffering from this as well. It's not that I'm people pleasing. I guess to some extent I am, but I'm more a giver than a taker. And for me, it always felt more. It always felt honorable that I don't need anything from anybody. I don't. I'm not trying to take anything from anybody. If it feels me up to just give to people, to help people. But we need both, and to change that identity is hard, and you need to go within yourself and understand, okay, where does this come from? And the ego will always get uh, into the scene where it's going to prevent you from changing, because that will require you to do something new. Now, I do agree with you that intuition is a superpower. Intuition have led me to some places, but I do feel, and I would love to know your opinion about it, that we live in such a distracted world, and many people ignore their intuition. It's hard to tell whether, well, is this just desire? Is something that I think I want, rather than something that my gut feeling, my subconscious, my higher self, however you want to call it, knows that I want. One, how can we become more aware of our intuition, and how can we just tap more into it? Because I know that it's, at least on a personal level, it's very hard to distinguish that voice also against that voice of fear of the ego whenever we're going to try something new. So we have the intuition that might say, hey, Katrina, try that, right? This is the right path. And your ego will say, no, that is too dangerous. Let's stay here. And we'll create the perfect story for us to stay stuck. So, how can we balance that?
Yeah, so to me, the whole life is about balance. And so when we are one thing, we are not the other. And so when we're looking at intuition, we're looking at a skill that is actually quite subtle. And that's the problem. That's why people don't listen to it, because it's too subtle. If it's not a punch in the face or a car accident or breaking up or some big life thing, then we don't even notice it. And that's what spiritual people are able to do. They're a little bit more attuned to the subtleties of life. And so when you're faced with a decision that's actually very important, then that is a time to just sit quietly with yourself, and go beyond the ego. So, yes, the ego is going to try and keep you safe. So that's going to be an automatic response, like don't do anything, don't make any changes, don't take any risks. So you pretty much know that voice, you know that advice. And that even could be your mother or your father. Your mother or your father could be the voice inside your head saying, don't make any moves, don't change, don't evolve, because, it means you might lose something. Whereas your intuition is connected to your higher self. So it's getting more information than the actual physical body can imagine. So it's coming down from a place that knows everything about everything, past, present, and future. And because it's subtle, we don't hear it. And because it's subtle, we don't sit with it long enough to hear it out. And it's picking up on, oh, like if I could say 10,000 billion more pieces of information than your conscious mind ever will know. So your conscious mind says, don't do it because you might hurt yourself. But your intuition knows that if you go down that path, you'll turn that corner, you'll have a cup of coffee, and you'll meet the love of your life. Whereas you can't know that at this point. So that's why it takes trust. You're trusting yourself, but more importantly, you're trusting your intuition. And more importantly than that, you're trusting your higher self. And your higher self is attached and has access to what we call the Akashic records, which is everything that ever was, past, present, and future. And so that's what it's drawing down, and that's the information it has access to. And that's why intuition is so magical, really, really magical, because it has access to that. And that's why you should listen to it, because you can't possibly know why it's telling you to go down there or to take that job. I mean, for example, when I think about when I met my husband when I was 18, I had a job. The guy was retiring. My wages had gone down in hours, and I started to think, oh, I better get a second job while this job wraps up. And I would never worked in a bar before, never. And I went up, and the guy said, yeah, go over to this guy. He'll give you a chance. So I went behind the bar, and he said, look, just jump behind the bar and see if you can pick it up quickly. And I picked it up quickly, had a great time, definitely loved it. And he said, terrific, you can start. And my night manager ended up being my husband. So he was at the end of the bar every night. Now, all I got from my intuition was it's time to get a second job. It's time to sort of move, change, evolve, learn something new, which I followed and I did. But it was more than just a job. It was an entire lifetime of love and support. I'm 38 years down the track from meeting that guy. And what an amazing thing. If I hadn't have listened to my intuition telling me to do something that I wasn't qualified to do, that I listened and I followed the instructions and it all turned out beautifully. And even if it doesn't turn out beautifully from the conscious mind point of view, it's often a lesson that you had to learn anyway. You needed that muscle to be built. So nothing's ever good or bad, black or white in this world. Everything is just simply a learning experience. And as soon as we move out of victim mode into driving our own bus and following our own nose through our intuition, life becomes way better, way better, way better. I can't recommend it enough. But you'll find most people are in victim mode where it's poor me. Look what's happening to me. This is terrible. This is good or bad. It's not good or bad. It's what did you learn out of it? What did you get out of it at the deeper level? It's fascinating to live life completely different. And that's what we call the awakening. We want we want people to become awakened to their own destiny and to their own subtle guiding light.
I love that story that you share, and that's one of the reasons why one of my favorite books is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's basically following your intuition. But what I've come to realize, especially in the last 3 years after 2 years, 2.5 years after I got divorced, is just trusting that intuition. But not only trusting your intuition, but believing that things happen for a reason and you're being guided. In your case was, oh, this job at some point is no longer going to be enough. But that event at, at itself forced you to make a move. But if I had never happened, you wouldn't even have gone to a bar. So intuition was one part, but what happened pre-intuition was another one. And it's fascinating because in hindsight everything makes sense. Hindsight, you see how, oh, I see now how all of these dots are connected. I can see how being late 5 minutes because I hit traffic make me bump into somebody that eventually got me a job and you continue with this timeline. To me, it was hard at the beginning to trust intuition or to figure out what intuition was. And mm, the story that I have about intuition was actually exactly with this podcast. For like 8 years ago, I thought about one day having a podcast because I was fascinated by the conversations. I didn't know anything about podcasts. I didn't know how big it was or the business behind it. I just felt it was going to be fascinating to chat with people and get to know more because I'm always been a curious person. But I never even paid attention to that. Fast forward, I went to a divorce and I had to look inside, like, what do I want to do with my life? Because I have no idea. It is a moment to change, and something needs to change. And that idea went back to the front of my head. And for the first time in my life, I felt that something was right. And I felt a sense of direction that I never, in my 31, 32 years at that point, I was like, I didn't have like a clarity when it came to my professional life. Sure, I was a financial analyst and I was doing a job, but it wasn't pleasing me. But I'll tell you, for the first 4 months that I gave myself to research and to figure out everything that I needed to know before launching the podcast. Every single day, Katrina, I'm not kidding. Every single day, I had that voice in my head and that self doubt that what are you doing? Nobody's going to listen. Nobody's going to care. Da 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 da. And the only reason why I kept pushing is because it felt right. It was instinct versus intellect. The fact that we can internalize and we can intellectualize something that doesn't make it right. But if we feel it, then it's right. And that kept me going. And once I launched the podcast early on, I found out that I had a talent that I didn't know I had. just by having interviewing with people from that moment on. And I share this story just to people trying to lean more into that and trust that process and trust their higher self, because as Naval Ravikant said on one of his recent podcast episodes, he said that our implicit knowledge and our knowledge that is unknown to ourselves is far greater than the knowledge that we can articulate. So basically, what we know that we don't even know we know is greater of the things that we know. As you said, that our subconscious mind or just our senses collect, I don't know, somebody said like 11 million bits of information, but our brain can only process like 50. So trusting that gut feeling, it requires trust. It requires of, I can't figure it out consciously, rationally. I don't know the path yet, but if I lean into that, maybe it's the right thing. Which you talk on your TEDx talk about the inner compass between the mind, the heart, and the gut. How can somebody learn to trust and align those three, especially when they can point at different directions? So it's like, we can use it as a compass, but which way should I go? Go with the heart, go with the mind, going with the God? It's tricky.
It's getting people to slow down. So when I say that, it's getting people to reflect. They don't. They either just say black or white, yes or no. That's not what I want to do, or I'm scared to do it, or self doubt wins. Look, if we sat down with each problem, each concern, and said, what does our head say? Our head's going to come up with rational things like, should I start a podcast? I know nothing about podcasting. Okay, so can you learn about podcasting? Yes. In this day and age, you can find out about podcasting very easily. And so you could do all that rationalization and have that chit chat. Then you come down to your heart and you say, okay, heart, can I be bothered? Is there a heart's desire here to go through what I need to go through to start a podcast or whatever? And so the heart says, yeah, I'm up for it. I'll give you energy to do that. I'll give you passion. I'll give you motivation. I'll give you the energy, the fuel to keep that going, to see you through. And then the gut is usually where it kind of starts for me. I'm a bit of a gut first, because I'm very intuitive. So the gut will speak first. And if the gut is the driver, is the ones coming up with the idea, then I check in with my heart to say, well, are you going to fuel this or not? Is it going to be a slow burn or a fast burn? And fast burn for me is where I'll have lots of ideas that just burn out. It's just a lot of flame and then nothing. It's like putting that kerosene on a fire. You get fire, but it's not going to hold. It's not going to take. What we want in our bigger projects like jobs and podcasting and things like that is we want a slow burn where the log is red and is glowing and is going to stay on and on and on. That's the kind of heat we need for bigger projects. Whereas a lot of people get confused about slow burn versus fast burn. And so the fast burns, I might explore something, research something, and then find out, nah, can't be bothered. That's the end of that. I've learned all I need to learn from that thing. I'm happy to let that go. And that could happen with a lot of podcasters, is they give it a go. It does one season and that's the end of it. Whereas other people are a slow burn on podcasting, and you see them refine it and get better and better and better. And they really take it on at a very deep and look for mastery in this particular area. But you can see just in podcasting, there's the slow burns and the fast burns. Yes, but checking in with all three just slows you down a little bit, gets you thinking. It's like the old-fashioned thing where you do your pros and cons list. You know, what's the pros on doing something and what's the cons on doing something. That's kind of, what it's there for. You've got all these useful tools, use them, and don't have any one of them talk you out of anything until you've completely checked in with all three parts of yourself on each issue. You could do this for rational things as well as irrational things. But that's why we've got this meat suit. This meat suit is a very advanced suit filled with lots of beautiful tools that are incredible and priceless. And we're not using them. We're just saying, oh, self doubt. Oh, yeah, well, I won't do it then, and talk ourselves out of things. And we've got to get really good at not being so great at talking ourselves out of everything. We've got to get really good at being able to talk ourselves into things, because the way our parents taught us was don't take any risks. Just get a job and keep it. Just get a government job and keep it. And yet, if we listen to their advice based on their brain and upbringing in a different world that we're living in, we're not going to have a very successful life. We've got to stop listening to our parents, because basically they don't know anything about the real world and the current world and the opportunities that are open to us. What we've got to do is what's right for us. We're here having our own experience. That's our job, is to have our own experience, not be a reflection of our mother or a reflection of our father or a reflection of our parents. That actually doesn't matter. They've done their job. They've set us up ready to launch out into the world. Once you're in the world, you've got this meat suit and you listen to your own tools within it. And that's what living as an adult is like. And I refer to you, Daniel, when you were saying about when you were younger, you didn't know. That's because between 20 and 25, you earn your first stripe. Between 25 and 30, you earn the second stripe. And between 30 and 35, you earn your third stripe. Now you're only just getting interesting. Now you've got enough life experience to even know what it is you want, need, and desire. Then you are heading towards 40. Now, 40 is the very beginning of your peak. And then you've got the rest of the bell curve. Now, that 40 to 80 or that 40 to 85, whatever that number is that you want to put there, it's up to your own limiting beliefs there. But that next 40 years is where you really rock and roll and add a lot of value to life and the world. And so you want to have done the rigor to get to that 40 position and set yourself up ready to fly, because now you know what you like, what you don't like, and how you want to contribute.
I love everything that you just said. And it's fascinating because I understand. I understand people, and I was in that position in the past, especially when you mentioned about some people who try something for a season, maybe a podcast or maybe something else. And I don't think that was necessarily intuition, but more desire. Whenever after I decided to go for the podcast, I sat with myself and I said, "Is this intuition or is desire?" Because many times we are chasing the shining object. We are exposed to a lot of different things on social media or in society in general. People are killing it investing or just buying crypto or just doing drop shipping or any kind of other kind of businesses that you can imagine. And then we want to do it because we want to have a more successful life that doesn't necessarily align with
Our
our
destiny.
purpose exactly here. And
Mm.
it's tough to, I guess, for people, unless life gives you a nice shake up, right? It's hard for people to realize what, not only what truly matters to them, but what they're supposed to do in this life, and tap into that thing. So I can definitely see how we tend to pursue the shining object. And I did it many times in the past, where I would have a business idea based on something I saw, and after 3 months, 6 months, like, I don't want to do this, which led me to believe that I was a quitter. Like, I didn't have the emotional stamina or the endurance to finish something. But with the podcast, that is far harder and it's taking me far longer and it's going to take me a lot more time, it feels natural to me. It feels almost like play, and that's when I know, okay, I'm on the right path. But pointing with the self doubt, I feel that sure our parents have some impact on that. Another impact I think is our negativity bias. It's easier for us to convince ourselves of why it won't go the right way, and that's how we evolve. That is part of our is in our DNA. But self doubt, I think that it can be used. I don't know if you can identify this. I just thought about it while I was developing this idea. Is that self doubt can be used as a compass, as you said. If your intuition says go there, and you have the fear and you have the doubt, well, that's exactly where you need to go. Almost like the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you'll be looking for. But another part of self doubt, I don't know if you have seen it with your clients, it is attached to self worth. That I'm not gonna approach that girl. I'm not gonna take that job. I'm not gonna move to a city because I cannot trust myself because I have low self worth. Even though self worth is innate, we're always going to be enough. It comes from within. Nobody can take that away from us. But I feel that self doubt can have like those two sides of it. One is it gets rooted in intuition, but the other one is rooted on uh, lack of self-worth. How do you what can people do to just differentiate which one is which, and how to get rid of one? In this case would be the one that is attached to self-worth, and focus more on the one that is with intuition.
You're using similar words to the way I explain it, but I'll just bring it back to the
Okay.
model that I use to coach with, and that is my confidence triangle. So everyone just visualize a triangle. And when you're not confident on something, i.e., you're in doubt about something, I want you to check in with the confidence triangle. So the first thing to think about on the first point in the triangle is your self belief. Do you believe you can? And get an answer. This is self coaching. Then you come down to the other point of the triangle and you ask yourself, this is self value point. Does it add value to my life? And then the third one is self assured, which is, have I stuck with it long enough to get good at it? So let's just take you as an example, Daniel. Back to the question of whether I should start a podcast or not. So remember back to those days. Do you believe you could be a podcaster?
I didn't necessarily believe it. I just felt that it was. I felt a pull, like
Yes.
I should pursue that for whatever reason, even though I didn't think it was possible. I guess.
Yes. So, first of all, what I listened to when I asked that question is there was a long pause. So, straight away, that tells me there's some work to be done around the self belief piece. So, we'll come back to that. Do you think starting a podcast will add value to your life?
Yes, 100%.
Think it will add value to your career?
Uh,
Right.
yes,
So
yes.
can you hear the answer to those two questions was different. The first one was much more definitive, much more immediate. The second one, there was a little bit of slowing down there and a little bit of confusion about how does it apply to my career. So I would do some work around that and I would dial that up a little bit for you as a coach. And then the second thing, at the time when you first hadn't started, had you stuck with it long enough to get good at it? The answer is no. And now you've been doing it for a while. Can you see you're a little bit more self assured as a podcaster now? Because you've stuck with it and you've practiced it a bit.
Yes, but I that one is tricky. That one's tricky, Katrina, because um, I feel that I was from a scale from 1 to 100, and let's say that 95 to 99 are the Joe Rogans of the world or the Stephen Bartlett's of the world that are massively successful. When it comes to interviewing people having those skills, I think that I probably started, my baseline was 65 to 70 without even me realizing. I never expected this. I got a lot of positive feedback at the very beginning, which it took me a while to accept because I felt people are been trying to be nice, da 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 da. Da. But the more I got the feedback without me even asking and see how genuine those compliments were, I realized, oh, this is what my intuition was telling me. So I've gotten way more comfortable. I used to be very anxious before I would meet a guest for the first time because I suffer in the past from social anxiety, introversion. Now I feel extremely comfortable because I trust myself on having interesting, deep, and fascinating conversations with any guest. So I guess even though I've practiced a lot, I guess yes, it has to be that with more practice came more confident, but the confidence came from the positive feedback rather than me more practicing. I guess maybe.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's that. You want to get some feedback about these sort of things. But the thing about the assurance is that the way you're judging it, 0 to 100, and you put yourself at, say, 60 initially, and you're probably up to 70, 75 now, maybe even sort of 80. When you look at Rogan, Rogan would be saying, I'm about 30. He's judging it on another scale altogether. So that's the thing about this. This is all about you. It's never about anybody else. And now we come looping back around to now that you're further down the track with it, do you believe you can be a really good podcaster?
I do. I do.
Okay. Do you think it adds value?
100%.
Yeah. And do you think you're going to stick with it long enough to get even better?
Yes.
Great. So this is the checking in with the confidence triangle so that you can self-coach yourself and see where the problem lies. When somebody has self-doubt, it's usually because they need to work on their self-belief, or they need to work on their self-value, or they simply need to practice more and get into it, have a bit of a go. Now, for you to say, all right, I'm now out of my shell, I've grown in confidence, I am now not socially as challenged as I was before. Can you see you could give up today and already you've received a priceless gift? Can you see why your intuition told you to do this particular activity?
Oh yes, yes, 100%. And one thing that helped me stick to it and see it from a different, because I think one thing that you're doing clearly, and I think that also helps a lot of people to overcome. I think we're not victims of circumstance, we're victims of perception. If we can reframe a lot of things, we can just change our brain biochemistry and change the way that we react to things. But one thing that Tim Ferriss said a long time ago was that whenever he was going to try something new, he would say, okay, what would I get from this even if I fail? So I did that exercise. Like, okay, I would grow more confident, I would have better conversations, I would increase my um, the network of people that I know, and I'm extracting knowledge from them that I can apply into my own life because I follow my curiosity when it comes to choosing guests. When I accept guests or just when I'm picking guests, I'm following my curiosity. What do I want to know more about? And that all that knowledge, all those contacts and the confidence overall, even if this fails, even if it goes to no money, no nothing, I would take all of these skills and values and knowledge and apply it to other areas of my life. That's how I've reframed the whole thing.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. If we're always consciously aware of the upside, um, then a lot of that is often not upfront. We don't know what we're going to get out of it. Really, we just have to come back to trust and trust that it's going to be more valuable than our little brains can even think up right now. And we've got to just trust that. And as you say, in hindsight, we can always go back and connect the dots. But initially, it that's why we say you've got to be brave, you've got to be courageous, you've got to jump off the cliff and build the parachute on the way down. All these things that we say are because we don't know. We don't know. We just have to trust our intuition, trust our desires, trust what sparks our curiosity. That's how I know whether I want to do something or not, is I've got to be curious about it. It's got to light me up in some way. And then I check in to see, okay, shall I do this? Is this for me? As my spiritual coach says, is this for you to cause and create? And so you can ask the universe, is this mine to cause and create? Is this mine to co-create with the universe? And you'll get a resounding yes. In fact, when I was just saying that, I lit myself up just then, and the universe came back with a resounding yes. So I don't know what it's saying yes to exactly, but I lit up from head to toe. I got all sparkly and very shimmery just then. And that was a very lovely feeling. And that's the feeling I look for in front of any small idea or any big project or any major life changes. Doesn't matter, because life is a series of very tiny little steps. So just making that little step to go to the shops or to pick up the phone or to have a meeting, these little things all come into the bigger things, projects, and then it all leads into the bigger thing, life. And so, it's never really about the big life moments. It's all about the little steps. Do you return that call? Do you take that interview? Do you send in your resume? Do you start that, little business on the side? It's all little steps. That's all it is. And just some people are really good at taking one step in front of the other, and other people are really good at doing absolutely fucking nothing and judging everybody else.
Which it all comes down to having the courage. And truly, it's not even becoming a better version of ourselves, it's becoming a braver version of ourselves. It's just, it's hard because what I'm doing, I'm brave for some things or more courageous for some things than for others, in my opinion. And I think it's tied up to that intuition. What I'm doing right now, what I just decided to go full on at it and have like a freelance work on the side to maybe pay my bills as much as I could while I'm growing this, for a lot of people feels terrifying because they lose that safety of having the paycheck or having the benefits of the insurance. To me, it felt, even though I told myself that I didn't have any choice, we always have a choice. And I chose this one. There are other fears that are harder to overcome. But yes, I wonder that you have coached countless of people. If there is a common limiting beliefs that is blocking them, because to me it feels like that the difference between the top 5%, top 1%, and the rest is all here up here. Is once you change that story, once you change that limiting belief, things start turning, things start falling into place, I think.
Yeah, the main one is that we clear first is I'm not enough. That seems to be in absolutely everybody. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've probably worked with 500,000 people over that time in one capacity or another. But every time I'm coaching one-on-one, I'm not enough is predominant. And it stops us doing so much. And the thing about it is, if we only knew who we actually are, we are magnificent. We are star beings. We are special. We are unique. We are amazing. But we don't know any of that. We're completely blinded to who we actually are. If we actually knew who we were, then obviously we wouldn't be down here having a human experience. But here we are. We've chosen to come down. We've chosen to come down to the earth at this particular time in the history of the world to experience exactly what's going on right now. And if we only knew who we were, we'd be very different, but we don't. So we've got to get over ourselves very quickly if we are going to make big, big changes that are coming. And we're either going to be part of that evolution of earth and history and time and place, or we're going to be dragged along by our teeth. And it's going to be very, very painful. And in fact, you're seeing that now. People that are not awakened, are not aware, they're finding things very, very challenging, and they're trying to fight for the way it was. Whereas the rest of us who are living in curiosity, that are aware of who we are, and are sitting back, sending out as many, trying to help the world in whatever small way we help the world. And you're doing your bit. You're doing your bit. You are exactly where you need to be at any given time. And Daniel, you're making your contribution. I'm making my contribution. And together we're here helping the world. And we may never even understand the impact we're having because we can't see the outer ripples. It's impossible to see the outer ripples of our ripple. So it's just marvelous. And so everyone who's awake knows exactly what I'm talking about. And anyone who's not awake is going, what the hell is she referring to? That sounds so weird and woo-woo, but it's nothing to do with that. It's absolutely to do with you're either living life in flow, in co-creation with the universe, understanding that you are the universe, or you're fighting against it in every which way. And that makes life really, really hard.
Which, I mean, if we had come here knowing who we were, then the human experience is kind of pointless.
It would be a
Kind of.
completely different experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Kind of
but
pointless. We'd all just
yeah,
commit suicide, actually. I think if
it's-
we actually remembered who we were coming in here, we'd actually kill ourselves and want to go back to source.
yeah, I know, and it's funny because this, even though I grew up Catholic, I wasn't very spiritual. I wasn't very religion, but in the since the moment that that all identity had to die, me in my relationship, in my marriage, which is one of, I don't know if you have heard or you're familiar with the ironic tragedy of life, which is that life has to be lived forward, but it only makes sense in reverse. Only when we look back and those events that happened to us that we have never wished that happened, and they were horrible, we see how they needed to happen and we thank them. Like in your case, losing 30 grand to a scammer, me probably going through a divorce that I never wanted to happen. It starts, it started that shift in me, and I start kind of leaning more into who I've always been, I guess. But as you said, kind of remembering and just accepting that I follow this guy who his name is Peter Krohn. He has this theory that we come to this world with inherent constraints, and the events we experience in childhood, called it traumas, they are used as a catalyst to reveal what we need to work on, the things that we're not free. So by just realizing, because to me that really kind of opened my eyes, because I've always wondered how come one event that you and I can l- live at the same time, you I'd get trauma and you wouldn't. How does the brain work? But if there's something that we're supposed to work on while we are in this world, then that's how it gets revealed, and that's how we remember. And many people trying to hold a lot of, they trying to hold to their life and have control when you cannot control almost anything. You just you need to let it go and accept what is. Just like, hey, it is what it is. It's neither good or nor bad. We give the meaning to the events that we experience. Now, how I think that is becoming harder and harder because we're way more distracted than ever before, and people don't want to sit with themselves and their thoughts and the emotions because it is a lot that have been repressed. How they get out of it, I have no idea. If you have any a suggestion, that is like
Well, as you say, they're using distraction like an addiction. So to me, distraction is the same as being a gambler, an alcoholic, a drug addict. It's just another distraction away from who we truly are. And these self-medicating type behaviors are part of your journey, and we're all distracted in one way or another, whether it's shopping, gambling, or whatever our poison is. These are just another way of waking us up. And so whether you and I had to physically go through any of that ourselves is neither here nor there. For you, without that marriage, without that divorce, without all of that, you wouldn't be here. This was all designed specially to build muscle for you. You've gone to the gym of that, and I've gone. It's all been specially designed for me in this certain way. And then I went to the gym of that. And, you know, other people have it really tough where they've got like drug addiction. They have to hit rock bottom. And then when they hit rock bottom, they come out of it. And now they're sharing their story with the world, helping other people. So it doesn't matter how we help other people. It's the meaning of life is to help others. Nothing exists in this world unless it helps others, including garbage collectors. Help us immensely. We might say we hate the banks, but it helps millions of people have this and that and do this and that and build this business and build that business. So everything exists only because it helps others, because that's the meaning of life. The purpose in life is to learn and grow. Learn and grow. And that's all we're doing. We're here, we're born, we learn and grow, learn and grow, learn and grow, learn and grow. Some of us in very tiny amounts, very slow learners, and others in giant leaps and bounds, fast learners. That's wonderful. Either way, we're here to learn and grow. And that's the purpose of life. That's the purpose of Earth School anyway.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I feel that life throws challenge up at us to learn lessons. Every setback, every adversity, every roadblock, we're supposed to learn the lesson there. It is our job. And I do feel that we only have free will and how we react to the events that happen to us or for us is the only time, because we cannot control. You couldn't have control what the other guy did with your money. I couldn't have control what my ex-wife was, what we are going through. We couldn't control a lot of things, but how we react and how we decided to act in the moment. I could have easily gone through, alcohol abuse. I could have committed suicide. I could have I could have done so many different other things, but then I decided to, I don't know, just something told me, hey, just keep pushing, keep working, and then you will eventually get out of it. But the more the more stubborn you are, the harder the challenge and the more painful it's going to get until you finally, as you said, wake up, learn the lesson, and move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
It
Katrina, uh-huh.
around, it loops. So if you don't decide to learn it now, you'll get married again and have another divorce. And then if you don't, you say, no, I don't want to learn it now, you loop around and get married, have another divorce. So you actually can see the pattern of looping in everybody's life. And when you see looping, same problem, different day, same problem, different person, all looping is where the person refused to learn and grow in that moment in time. But they will eventually get there. They're just slow learners. I personally, now that I understand looping, I understand it. I see it in myself, and then I go, no, 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 I want to learn. I want to learn and grow. Where's the aha moment in this? The minute I get the aha moment, my body locks and loads that in. I can move on, and the universe doesn't have to repeat that scenario with different people on my stage to try and teach me that next time. I can just move on to the next lesson. So if you think of lessons as steps, you're going up and up and up the steps. You don't want to be staying on that step the whole time. That's a bit boring. You want to be evolving up the steps, and you don't want to be looping and staying on the same step on that issue. But it's been so fun talking to you, Daniel.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I agree. I'll give you the same
Yeah.
feedback. You're very good at this.
Thank you.
Very
Appreciate it.
people talking. I see the gift. I see the talent. It's amazing. Well done.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I really enjoyed having this conversation. This is a part of the whole process that really lights me up. That it's the curiosity, it's the understanding, it's the connection, it's exploring more than just the surface level kind of questions, kind of things. And once again, I didn't know I had this talent. I didn't know that it was that curiosity. What always made me different, and what always separated me from the rest in a negative way, because I was too curious. I was too noisy. I mean, I was asking questions that nobody wanted to answer because everyone was too lazy to even think about. This was kind of the perfect platform to me to really exploit it. So yeah, I've been wonderful conversation. I even had like a closing question. If you have a bit more time, is that if somebody is listening to us talking now and is standing at a crossroad, feeling the weight of self-doubt, unsure if they should take uh, the leap of faith or just stay safe, why would you want their self-doubt to whisper to them at this moment, and what do you want them to hear underneath the whisper?
The what it's whispering is live, 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 live. Staying where you are and not living is not what this experience is about. And yes, we can say it's taking risks, but is it really taking a risk, or is it just living? Trying new things, having a go. In Australia, we like to say, have a crack. Have a crack. What's the worst that can happen? Is you pack it all up and do something different, or you start a business and it doesn't work and you have to go back to a job. Who cares? Nobody cares except for you. So take your little hand by the hand and say, darling, I am your parent now and I'm in charge. Now, let's play.
I love that. I love that. And I don't remember who said this quote that most people died at 25, but they're buried at 75. They just
Yes.
live an autopilot, the same life, and yeah, it is scary. It's terrifying, but that's the polarity or the duality of things, that you need to be scared in order to feel the excitement and the joy and the adventure. But it doesn't. You have to take the good with the bad, and once you accept that, then you just start, as you said, living. Katrina, awesome conversation. I could literally go for another hour or two. I'll probably have to bring you back because I had so many other questions that we couldn't address because of time. But where can people find you, work with you, hire as a coach, anything? Buy your book also.
Yes. So my business is called Becoming the Expert.com.au because I'm in Australia. So that's becoming theexpert.com.au. Jump on there. Straight away, you can book in for a free discovery session. And in that session, in about 15 minutes, I'll give you absolute complete clarity on, what's been happening for you and what are the opportunities that are coming up for you. And when you see my gift and my genius and my intuition in action, you'll see that it's a finely tuned tool that I'm able to use. And people go, oh my God, how do you do that? Well, that's just my thing. Let's find your thing.
Perfect. Awesome. Yes, I would encourage anybody to try it because I feel that most people are lost in life. And I get it. We have these societal expectations to where we should do, I mean, what we should do, where we should be, and where we should work. And brother, life is just one. So you might as well, and it's short. So you might as well live this world, swinging. So why
Yeah,
not?
why not?
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you once again, Ekaterina. Incredible conversation.
Thank you, Danielle, for having me. I've had a great, great time. You're a true blessing to the world. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.